Is a well-known critic of the company's controversial business decisions. And despite leaving Alphabet earlier this year, she still has a lot of concerns about how the tech industry overall is treating vulnerable employees. In today's Bloomberg Equality, our ongoing conversation about the bottom line impact of diversity, I sat down with Liz and asked about those challenges.
I think that the most important thing that companies, whether they be Alphabet or other companies, can do is to involve employees in the structural decision-making processes. We see this in the European Union, where there are worker representatives appointed to boards, where workers have strong bargaining rights, and they use that to make the business run more effectively because they're the people on the ground doing the work. And I think that that's something that tech could really use. I think that certainly one of the demands that the Google walkout made in November of 2018, and that I had made separately before that and continue to make, is that when workers are represented on boards, it means that the boards don't have an incentive to do things that will seriously harm employees.
So management will say, okay, that's certainly an idea, we'll take it under consideration, but they'll go back to their old playbook, which is we'll try to repair relations with employees through the more conventional means. We will step up our diversity efforts, step up our inclusion efforts. You're kind of laughing right now.
Yes, I'm laughing because those diversity and inclusion efforts have not worked. If you look at the amount of money that's been spent on quote-unquote diversity and inclusion efforts versus the amount of progress that's been made, I would say that it's not been effective at all, right? If you look at the percentage of black engineers working at Google and you look at the amount that's changed, it hasn't changed very much for all the money that's been spent working on this problem. People like to portray these issues as quote-unquote pipeline problems outside of their control or within the broader industry, rather than looking at what are they directly doing that's harming employees.
Do you think the tech industry right now is in a vulnerable spot? I mean, there's a lot of public criticism of the industry at large and a lot of questioning of what society has allowed them to do up until this point.
I think that some of the criticism of the tech industry is warranted, but I think some of it is also partisan attacks and kind of playing the refs. And I worry that conflating those things together is particularly dangerous, right? Especially when we're talking about the rights of vulnerable employees. If someone's interested in investigating Google or investigating Facebook, are they investigating it because they genuinely are looking out for the interests of minority employees, or are they trying to coerce that entity into being more favorable towards the governing party?
Right, score a political point, in other words.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that there is a serious need for regulation, but I think that this is why employees need to be involved in explaining what are the problems, why don't the easy solutions work, and how can we actually fix this? But employees haven't been granted that structural power before.
Do employees want that structural power? Some people just want to be left alone.
I think that there are certainly people who want to put their heads down and quote-unquote just do their jobs. However, if we think about engineers as engineers, right, similar to structural engineers, mechanical engineers, right, I would argue that electrical engineers and computer scientists have ethical obligations, and that we need to support people who are working in support of their ethical obligations as engineers.